everybody. Welcome to Now That's Love, your favorite mother-daughter duo.
Welcome to a beautiful community where you get to know yourself more, love yourself more, and be yourself more authentically.
Because you are the one in control of your love story and your destiny of where that goes and to live your best life with yourself.
Yes. And today we're going to go into what most people out there will experience when they start to have self-awareness, that they are the witness of their thoughts. And I think everybody will say they kind of go into a hermit mode because they're so hyper aware of what other people's energies are affecting them. And then they're already trying so much to take care of their
You're
own.
like, I'm an empath. Leave me alone. Feel
Right.
everything.
And I'm trying to take care of my own thought situation and reprogram my brain. And so I'm not so taken down. And one of the things that happened when I was walking through this was you kind of go on a pedestal of, I cannot be touched. I need to be a monk. I need to be hermit mode. I need to stay home and replenish all my energy. I can't be around anything that is going to take me off.
I'm on
And
my highest level. I'm the best I can ever be.
nobody understands me. And it's okay because I think everybody really does walk through that. It's just part of the programming. It's part of walking in it. But I was still working in an environment where there were tons of people and with my clients. And I went into this prayer of, listen, I can't be a hermit or a monk. And so please help me. Thank you for helping me. I always say, thank you for showing me the truth. And what came to me was so powerful. And I wrote about it about 2 years ago, but it was, the 2 words were, you can observe others, give them that space, observe them. But you don't have to absorb their energy or their story. Like, what our brains want to do is still have people be like us or think like us or control them or help them immediately and help they can change because they can see the light, or they don't have to stay in that negative place. That's still part of codependency. It's still part of not just allowing someone to be themselves. And in full circle, what we're doing subconsciously is not allowing ourselves to be our authentic selves. And so it really always comes back to us, which is so interesting how that works. It works.
So if you're thinking negative thoughts about this podcast, it's back at you.
Right.
We love y'all.
We're kidding. So just when you're around somebody, now if they're a place where they're really draining your energy all the time, over and over, obviously that's what we talk about with boundaries and making the decision that, listen, I don't have the space or energy to do this at this moment. You have your voice. You can say, I don't have the capsule or the space to be here now. And that's one thing that Ashlyn has talked about, like with friendship groups. You can even have a conversation about it, saying, listen, I want to be here for you, but there's times in my life that I know I won't be able to be the capsule for you. I won't be able to be that space for you to come to because I'm already in a space myself and I need to kind of that recovery zone type thing. And that's okay. And it might take, some people have gone through some really dark stuff and they need that space where they can't be that person for you, because some people's paradigm right now, or their wiring in their brain, is very victim mindset. And it's not the other person's job to say, listen, you need to stop being a victim. They've got to decide that they don't want to be there anymore either, and get maybe a coach like what would be us, where we would be helping you so that you rewire that programming. The 95% of your actions of the subconscious mind are going to keep on showing up, and you almost can't see it. You can't see, and I've been there. I've been there. You can't see how you know, this is your reality. So you think, yes, I am all these things that had happened to me when I was 17, 18, I'm going to express my story. You keep on expressing it, but yet expect something different to appear in your life. And that,
Your victim story, your ego.
yeah. And it's not like you null and void that something happened to you, but if you keep on expressing and staying there, now there's a roadmap in your brain that's keeping you on that journey. And it's the self-awareness part that we talked about that will help you pop out of that. I think one of the visuals I have is that here's in your brain, here's a road that you used to travel. And you're building, it's coming up, you're building your own new road pathway. And you don't have to go down to the crumbly rock one anymore. You are up here. And so every time a thought comes in, you're like, oh, wait, I'm on a different road pathway. Your brain is miraculous. Your mind is absolutely amazing. And it's able to change with consistency of you not believing this down here anymore. That's why it's a self-awareness of your belief system and what you do love and what you do like. That this is where you create your new road. You don't have to stay on the victim story road. I am the perfect example, in all honesty and humbly, of having a victim story from when I was younger. And I thought that I'd done the work through things, but because it felt like home, that I was on a hamster wheel of the same thing. And it is extremely humbling. And I take responsibility because I didn't see it. But I also know that I was meant to walk through everything I walked through so that I could show others the miraculous ways of getting out and having the most beautiful love story with yourself. It's 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 the best ever, and it's ever growing. And also, like we said, still go through the dips, very real, but shorter and much better and amazing. So I'm going to turn the time over to Ashley.
No, I was just gonna say that I completely agree. I think whenever we are able to fully acknowledge that we have put ourselves in a victim story, because I'm gonna be honest, it's so much easier to be like, well, I can't do this, and I can't be around this because of my story. Oh my gosh, I can never be in a relationship again because all men are the same, you know? I think we've all heard every woman at least say that at least once in their life, or men, all women are the same. And if you really go out, we're not all the same. But you can be stuck in that story. And if you're that friend that keeps telling the same story, that it's not the fact that your friends don't want the best for you or don't want to keep hearing, like, you know, about your pain, but sometimes it's like you need to start. That's when you go inside and you're like, okay, I keep telling myself this. I keep telling the ones around me the same story. Let me do the work so this is no longer my story. Like journaling. I felt like journaling did the world for me. Um, one of the best things that I did whenever I was in certain relationships, and you can do this with friendships. Whenever I say relationships, I mean friendships, or like man woman relationships, man man relationships, girl girl relationships, like all around the spectrum. Um, what I did was I created um, a pros and cons list of like, okay, this is the pros, and these are the cons, and I'm gonna be honest, the cons made it bigger, but a lot bigger. But then I like journaled out. I didn't go to my friends. Like I told my friends, yeah, I went through a breakup. This is hurting right now, and they're like, if you need anything, I'm here for you. But I feel like it's always been my own personality. I'm gonna be honest, where I don't want to put other things on other people, which I'm still working through with like just asking for help in general. But making journaling and just figuring out like why do I keep telling myself this story? Is it benefiting me in any way? Is your story literally helping you out in any way?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
Put
not.
down the shovel. Like you literally
Yeah.
are like digging a hole of believing that story, right?
And
I
you're not
mean,
going to progress forward staying
no, you're
there.
just digging a deeper, each time you stay there and you're not taking responsibility for the choice of whatever is in. And I want to clarify that so many things that happen to so many individuals at a younger age was Oh, that's some of the hardest things to walk through, right? So it's not like you chose in that moment that situation, but maybe in the before life you said, listen, I'm going to experience this because I'm going to help others this way. Like, how are you showing up to take that situation and what did you learn from it? Like, any story. I'm going to tell a story. I have to, Ashlyn. I have to tell a story that will drive this home. So, a man that works with neurology and just PTSD, that he's just different things of people's traumas. He's a trauma coach, but he's beautifully qualified in the brain and um, how to rewire things. And so he said, we're labeling things with PTSD. We're labeling people. And you can go in and do some serious changing of the story by what did I learn? What did I learn from this? Did it change my life for the better? It can be possible if you're going there. And so he said he had a man come to him that was extremely wealthy, and he had he left work and he was followed by 4 big vehicles, and a little bit away in more remote area they took from behind this way and this way and this way, and they closed him in. They abducted him by gunpoint, put him in the trunk, and then he was held out for ransom. And it was a big, very huge trauma thing. You can imagine. You can just imagine what that was like. Well, the company found out they had to raise even more funds, and he was able to get out. And so when he's working with this trauma coach, the coach said, he told him the story like I just told you about everything. He's like, I just have PTSD. I can't get out of this. And he said, what happened in the very moment that they came and you knew that there was like no chance? And he said, I saw my wife and my children next to me in a prairie. Like we were together. We were happy. And because your brain will do that escapism. And I think a lot of people that have experienced big T trauma will understand that you do go somewhere else. All of a sudden you're just not there to be able to handle the situation. You go somewhere else in your mind. And he said, okay, so you went there with your wife. What was going on in your life? And he's like, well, my wife was about to leave me. I'd gotten so enveloped in work, and all I wanted in that moment of trauma is I just wanted to be with my wife and my children, and to live my life just, out there in nature and free, and just love on them with all my heart. And so the doctor said, well, so tell me what happened like when you came home. And he said, well, a company actually ended up making double the money, and everything was fine. The processing system with me being gone so much with the ransom, things had improved with the business, so I could have more time with my family. My wife and I are in an amazing situation and loving relationship now. I'm spending a lot more time at home. I'm loving making memories with my children. And so then the doctor said, so tell me now what you want to get over. And the guy said, well, actually, I think I need to call these guys up and tell them thank you because I got my life back. I got what I really, truly, deeply desired and wanted to have happen in my life, and to get rid of certain things. It happened. And they both kind of laughed. But if you can take moments in your life that have been trauma, and just you got out of it, think about that message. What have you learned? And if you haven't yet, you're still in the victim story, look back on that moment. Look back on some of the moments. For me, when I was asked to look back on some of the moments, I'm like, wow, I could pull them up. You're just in one relationship. So for me, it was when I finally got out, what dire action did my spirit want and my mind to connect? What came of it? Now, I'm not going to go do the thank you, but I also know that if we'll look at it there, it's one of the first steps of getting out of victimhood, because there was some reason that you experienced certain things that your spiritual awareness is wanting to take you out of, like, this no longer has to be your story. And maybe you didn't remember something that happened when you were 6 or 7, and it's now you're 33 and you're still in this situation. So if you can really sit with it and be like, what was it that I learned about myself? What was it that I learned that I would no longer do, or that I would really truly desired about life? And that can start to shatter the victim story. It can just start to shatter and make you feel actually more empowered to move forward and be like, that's that road I was talking about that's down here. You don't have to travel that anymore. You're creating a new road. It's a new road in 95% of your subconscious in your brain, the neuroplasticity. You've got to tap into visualizing a better future, a better now. And just, it's a muscle in your brain. It's just a muscle. It's like consistency, but at some point you might even be feeling like what Ashlyn said with journaling is that I would sometimes just brain dump, like, this is my reality right now. It really sucks. It really, I feel like this, and you can just almost see the whole victim story crumbling. And then it just turned into, now that it's out, now I could see things a little bit more clear. And then by the end of my journaling, I'm like, wow, here's clarity. This is my spirit working for me. Here's like, this is the truth. And I can see maybe sometimes 2 or 3 pages of my sad story. And I didn't have to dump it on anybody. I didn't go to anybody. Yes, we need to have friends that it's okay to have moments, obviously, with your friends, but my friends, as deeply as they wanted to probably be there and help me, they hadn't walked the depths of the abuse and couldn't even fathom it. And so I knew I needed to walk the walk. And
Yourself, because no matter what, a lot of people have never walked through what you walked through. And that's whenever you have to analyze and have that vision for yourself. Whenever you mentioned vision, it brought back this thing that I learned in the leadership class that I did. And it says, if we don't know where we want to be, like, where do you want to be in the future? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be a cook? Do you want to be, like anything you want to be, the best mom you can be? If you don't have the vision, how will we ever know when we get there? And I thought that was so powerful whenever I read that, because I was like, what's my vision for the future? And how will I ever know whenever I get there? And at the same time, I realized, okay, it's not necessarily a destination. Like, I'm not going to just all of a sudden be just the greatest mom in the entire world, or the greatest cook in the entire world, or the greatest leader, or I will officially be healed. My victim story will never appear again in my life. Like, no, but it's so important. It's manifesting the vision of, seeing that destination of, like, you know what? I don't have to be my mind. I don't have to be my victim story. Seeing that outside and being like, you know what? This is my destination. I'm no longer going to be that person. Or I am going to be this person, whatever person you want to be or not want to be anymore. Make that a goal, write that down, and then you'll have that vision. Okay, this is the coolest thing, because this is whenever we just really started doing visions and manifesting. And this was before I had my son, and I probably should not have written this down right in that moment. But I wrote down, and I need to find the list. I wrote it down just on sticky notes, so it doesn't have to be anything fancy or on you don't have to go buy a big plaster board or whatever. I literally wrote it down on some sticky notes. And I said, okay, what do I want for the next 2 years? And I ended up getting it sooner, which was kind of funny. But in order, I wrote down, have my baby, buy a house. I probably should have put the baby last. Get my bachelor's degree, and get the car that I want, a good car that I can have. It's not necessarily about things, but it was just about those goals that I've always wanted to, like, obtain. I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to raise my baby in a house. Like, my husband and I were working so hard, and then just even my personal success of, like, doing school, because I loved teaching, like, just all this internal thing. So I made a list, a vision for myself. So I want you all to do that. Write a list down for yourself what you envision. Not necessarily things. It doesn't have to be things. It can be, I'm going to be the best mom I can be. I can be the best dad I can be. I'm going to persevere in my career. I love my jobs. I am no longer going to be a victim of my victim story. I'm going to tell myself I love myself every day. I'm going to create my own love story. Just, write a list right now or after the podcast. But write it down and put it on your mirror or someplace that you see it every day. My husband, he put it in his car. Excuse me. He put it in his car, like windshield, where like the old like CDs or sunglasses. I don't really know why they have like that little section,
Advisor.
but little visor, yeah, where you can put it on there. And so he would go, whenever he would drive to work every day, he would see it. And he ended up manifesting his list. That's his own list. So I'll let him discuss that maybe on another time. But I ended up having all those things happen in order. So, but I looked at it every day and I kept believing in it. Or even just like whenever this was in the beginning of my journey I would tell myself in the morning before going to work, and worked as a party host or a waitress, and I would have a goal of how much money I would make for that day. And I was like, you know what, I'm feeling $150 today. I would either make exactly that or more. And one time I didn't hit the mark on $170, but some random stranger came up to me and said, "You were a great party host for my friend's daughter's party. Here's $20." Boom, made 170. So creating that vision in your mind of where you want to be at.
Right.
Do you want to be like, it's just like, I've been there. I've been in that victim story of like, my best friend died. I'm never going to have any best friends. No, actually, the greatest girls that I have ever met. I get so emotional talking about it because they're just such beautiful people. But they came into my life after fully loving myself because they love themselves and they're like, "Let me show you more love, Ashlyn, because you deserve all the love." And I'm like, well, crap, I got buckets and handfuls of love to give. But after you let go of that victim story, or even just in relationships with yourself or what traumatized you as a young child, it will, something greater is on the other side. Whenever I let go of my trauma story of relationships, like all men are the same, I'm never going to find a good man. Um, all men do or cheat and hit, all like whatever story you've told it yourself, like work through that. And I mean, not even necessarily finding someone at the end of it, but finding yourself at the end of that is the most beautiful thing. And it's like my mom mentioned, it's not easy. We've been each other's therapists sometimes where I called her on the phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, this just came to me why I'm so triggered by certain things, like there was somebody that was constantly critiquing me whenever I was younger. So like I was like, why am I constantly critiquing myself? And I really had to
Mm.
thoroughly go through the story of why I was people pleasing, why I was in my inner critique. I always told my husband, I'm like, no one can hurt me as much as I can hurt myself because I'm my worst critic. And he didn't understand that until he said something to me, and I'm like, I know I've told myself that like 20 times. And he realized, okay, like I I didn't take criticism well.
Right.
Now I see that the people that in my life that love me, they can tell me things and I take it genuinely. But if you have that happening, just I feel like a lot of times you can recognize your triggers and relate that to something in your victim story. Even just things I had to work with my husband whenever we first got together. I just walking through relationships, the trust factor, and oh, well, I'm going to leave before you leave type of attitude. And it's so
Yeah.
silly, but then I reflected on it and it was just me trying to be avoidant, not trying to be
Mm-hmm.
hurt. There's so many different things that you can do whenever you are still in that victim mindset, or sometimes you don't even know it. Like, it's not like every day you tell yourself that, but I think there's can be things where like say for instance, you see somebody and they remind you of somebody, like, I'm just gonna stay away from that because in my past that someone looked like that. I'm staying away from that general type of person. But I don't know. I realized that within just that vision and that manifesting, that you're creating this, like we said, you're creating this love story. You're creating your life. do you want to look back in 10 years and be like, oh, I'm so glad I was just in my victim story and I always was the negative person around my friends? No, create a beautiful love story of love with your friends and within yourself and relationships. Because when you can build it within yourself, it's gonna exert like all outwards, and everyone's gonna feel that love. And don't you want to create that? Not even just for yourself, but for your husband, for your kids, for people around you, for just someone around in the grocery store to make someone's day. Because I feel like as and just in humanity, we need more of that anyways, of just love. And we were gonna also mention about gossiping. Do you want to hop onto that one real quick?
Yeah, I think ever since I was probably that I can remember, reflect back on, I'm maybe 12, thinking junior high, I had major issues with talking bad about somebody. I felt, I mean, I could say stuff. Of course, I wanted to fit in. And it was
Well, I
natural,
think
I think, for girly
especially
girly.
as women, we usually that's how we bond, or
Right.
that's just
We
kind of what we had
segregate,
around
right?
us.
Like, and heaven forbid there's like three girls together in high school that can be friends because one's got to trump up the other one. Usually there's somebody that's a little bit jealous of that, but that's high school. And I remember that I, I, I struggled with it. I struggled. I felt like Ashlyn was talking about in one of our episodes of overthinking what we've said. I really think that that is where it stemmed from, of overthinking, because a situation happened. I think it was probably eighth or ninth grade, that one of my very best guy friends was dating one of my very best girlfriends. And he told me something private. And then she's like, well, you're not my best friend if you don't tell me. And so that's what happened. And being young, I decided, that that person could keep a secret and that maybe she should know, type thing. So anyways, of course it didn't, it didn't evolve that way. Beautiful life lesson. We've talked about life lessons. What can you learn from this? But for me, it was when somebody tells me something there and I give them my word, I'm not going to say something, it's in the vault. I learned that because for about 3 months, my little group of friends didn't want to have anything to do with me. It was such a hard lesson, but at the same time, I'm beyond grateful for it.
For doing that for me, because you
Yeah,
taught me that lesson.
I did. I was like, let me have some haunting stuff happen in eighth grade, but it was very good. But I think that that's when I started thinking too of the gossiping that Ashlyn's talking about started to really haunt me. I just didn't feel comfortable being in those situations. And I think a lot of people that have been around me will say that that's probably most of my authentic self. I try to do my very best that way. Another situation, fast forward to when Ashlyn was just a baby, brand new, and we lived in a duplex, just going to be moving and getting our house built down in here in Texas. And I had a girl that her little daughter would take my son and just push him up against the wall and do all these things. And I was triggered because, mama bear, for any of us out there, like, are you not going to take care of that situation? I'm grabbing him, but you're not having her say sorry or like, that's not okay. She's just doing her thing. And once again, we talked about trying to control other people. Yes, we could use our voice, but like, I'm not going to change the way she parents, right? So I just took him away from the situation and they just weren't going to be playmates. I went to my best friend at the time, and I told her, like, you were there, you witnessed it. She's like, and she just kept on being she was friends with both of us. And I learned a very valuable lesson again. There's a big part of my little victim self at that point with that little story that wanted her to side on my side. And I sat with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I was 20, 26, 23, 20, 24. I'm in high school. She needs to be on my side. And so the girl had come over to my friend's house, and I was walking up into witness and watch them talking to each other. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if she's telling her I talked bad about her because I was so upset. And then my instinct was like, no, because we are so close. And if she wouldn't say anything about her, to me, she wouldn't say anything about me to her. Absolutely not. And there was so much peace in that friendship. And now she'll tell you kind of a different story when I talk to her. She's like, no, you were the one that was this way. But of course, still my perfection attitude. That was the one time I felt like I really dropped the ball. And we were extremely close. And when I moved away, probably about 6 months later, I just thought that was it. I wanted to be that friend that if I was talking to anybody else, that they wouldn't think that I was talking about them. Like if I could give them that space,
See.
yes, and then they could feel safe, that they could just be their authentic self and tell me whatever, and then just the privacy of it. And was I perfect in the walk of this? No, I have not been perfect in the walk of this, but feel like I have done pretty good at this walk with, you know, keeping things, the gossiping. They say in the energy field of the body that gossiping is one of the most toxic things you can do too. And then we learned also that if you have to gossip, it means you're being avoidant in your own problems and your own things that you can be working on in your life. It's actual dopamine hit. Like you actually do get a
Like, let
hit
me
of like,
worry about them instead of myself.
yeah, and I'm going to spread some news. There is an actual chemical like release of hormone like that happens in your body for us to do it. It's just being aware of when we do it. And for me personally, I don't want to have to watch my back like I had to in 7th grade.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to watch my back that um, I pulled somebody else down because what is that? I'm superior, that I'm so perfect myself that I can like walk this walk and they don't have any right to have
Well, I feel like
mistakes or terrible
too, it's
things
like that
happen.
full circle that your friend, they start thinking, oh my gosh, what is she saying behind my back?
Oh,
That's what
for
I think. Whenever
sure.
someone's gossiping about their friend, unless they're coming to me from a hurt place and just being vulnerable and they're just like, hey, like this person really hurt me, then I can kind of understand. But like if we're just like constant rip fest on particular like one girl, two girls, no. Like let's focus
Mm,
on something positive. All my friends, they understand that with me especially that I mean I told you guys in the previous podcast that we have girls' night once a month. And it's just so relaxing and calming because we don't gossip about each other. If someone leaves, like can't make it, we're not talking about her. We're like, oh, what a shame she can't come. We'll miss her. We love her. All right. But like everyone knows specifically that I say, for instance, one of my friends comes to me and tells me something, not even about the other person, but just something in their life. I'm not going to tell that person, guess what's happening in their life. Guess what happened with their kid or their husband or da da da. Like, no. If you tell me something, it's going to stay between me and you.
right.
I feel like that is just such a huge thing of trust in my relationships where I would want someone to do that with me. If I say, "Oh my gosh, blah blah blah," I just need to tell you like this is really going on in my life. This and this and this. I'm walking through this right now. Would I want her to go and tell like Jilly, Jal, and Susie those things? No. I wouldn't want
Mm,
that. And I don't talk about negative things. I usually just talk about like, oh my gosh, I'm walking through this right now. And we usually just kind of talk about similar walks that we've
right.
walked or situations. But I think it's that thing that you need to have in your girl group that you need to talk about. Like, and it's like it's part of being part of boundary, not being codependent and wanting to gossip. Because I think sometimes she starts gossiping, you're like, well, let me tell you more tea.
Could be
But
energy. It's so true.
and we get caught up in that sometimes. It's
Yeah.
so easy. I think that's how we connect. I think especially in the woman community. Sometimes men, I think men can be a little tea too. I'm not shutting y'all out of this, but I think that's how women sometimes we connect. Did you hear what just happened? Did you know that like this girl just did this with this person? We just start doing that. But like, I think you need to hurry and check your mind when you start thinking, oh, let me
Right.
tuck myself in. Let me remember that the only person I need to be worried about is myself. gossiping does, like we mentioned with the victim story, it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you more superior than him or her or it or whatever dog, cat. It doesn't make you any better. If anything, if someone was to gossip to me about one of my friends, I'm like, that's not cool. That's when you shut that down. You're like, you can't talk about her or him or whatever
Yeah, you
that
have a
way,
voice in that. I
because I would want someone to stand up for my name. Don't talk about her like that, or don't say this about her, and shut that down right away, because it's trust within your friendships that you have to understand that protection that you have with each other and that safety, that vulnerability. Because the second that you knock that down, you don't really have a trusting friendship anymore. You're kind of, you're digging the grave again. Like, get shovels
right.
out today.
I think there's a way to do your own self check, and that is if the person that you're talking about was standing right there, would you say that?
I love that. I
And
love that.
if you are telling somebody else and it really is concerning, then maybe the person you should be talking to is that actual person. Because once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't suck that back in. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but you really can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can try to make it hollow. It's not going to go back in. And a lot of times with gossiping, especially if it's not like the like TV shows or whatever, it is literally a mutual friend or somebody, it might get to them 6 months later and it's passed through 20 people's mouths. So they're getting a completely odd story and you're watching your back because all of a sudden somebody's mad at you 8 months later and you have no idea. Well, you didn't communicate with them and they're not going to probably come and communicate with you that you've really hurt their feelings. You may have just lost a person out of your life that now has a complete distorted part that you're in
People
the
observe.
heat. Yeah.
People observe that for sure. They notice, like, oh, she talks a lot. I'm not going to tell her anything because that's going to go around and be so toxic. I feel like it's it's okay to vent. It's okay to be vulnerable in situations, but the second that, I always just know that, like, what goes around comes back around, and whatever I put out there, I want someone to be like, I know Ashlyn. I know Janae. They are not going, that's what you taught me whenever I was younger. They are not going to say anything about me. So if someone accuses you of saying, oh, Ashlyn said this, Janae said this, they're going to be like, I know their character. They've never
Right.
gossiped. They never talked anything mean about somebody. They don't openly even ever try to hurt anybody. So,
Right. You can go back to a story of there's been times I've slipped up and I maybe joined in on something and then something bigger even happened
sure.
and I could not have a defense mode of like, listen, you've never heard me say anything about anybody in that situation. And although I was like, let's put it 50 things said with all the thing, and I said one thing, I was part of the collective and learned lessons there. When I was at a particular gym working, there was some new people that came in to work there. And I'd been there already for about 4 years. My thing was, I'm not going to talk about any of my clients. That's a wonderful thing that I actually sign on the dotted line that's, I can't, and I wouldn't anyways. But I also could take it into not talking about anybody at work, and the people that walked in there, it was just like, I just didn't have it in me. I, I don't want the energy of this. When something really big happened about 3.5 years that I was there and there was a whole bunch of chaos that was happening, there were two individuals I loved to pieces and they both came to me and this person wanted to tell me this story and this wanted to tell me this story. I loved them both and I wanted to be that space for them, but I also wanted them to know that I absolutely wasn't going to talk bad about the other or this one. So I said, you know, I would love to be this space for you. I love you, but I also have nothing against this other person. And this is your story. And I don't want to get mixed up in this. And I know this might hurt your feelings that I'm saying this right now, but you will know in the end that I have not said anything bad about you. This is the only way I can have it follow through, that you will
Integrity.
understand. I will not say anything because I can see this is becoming a storm within everybody that's working here. So just know that this is the best way I know how to honor you. And I know there's a lot of other people here that will listen to you, and I know you have a side. I just need for you to actually at some point know that you have a space, that I've always been your friend.
Yeah.
And then the other person came to me, and I told that person the same thing. This is between you two. You have always been so kind to me. This person's been so loving and kind to me. I can't take this. Um, I'm afraid I would lose both of you. I'm in the middle of it, and you guys are losing yourselves. And so about 6 months later, I actually received at different times from both people that I was the only one that stuck up for them. And I'm like, really? In that, you can look at it in a deeper place. I did stick up for them. I stuck
Yeah.
up for me, wanting to be that person that could love two people that were at odds. And I truly, to this day, still absolutely adore and love both people, even though they have nothing to do with each other. We have their mutual respect that their names aren't brought up. They have plenty of people in their life. They're wonderful individuals to go and to talk to their story that aren't mutual, right? But for me, that was something I learned, um,
Yeah.
just kind of listening to my spirit. You don't have to feel like you have that loyalty to one or the other when you love two people so much. You can let them do their thing, their big grown up thing, and be a
Yeah.
space of just love and compassion for other things that they're going through in life, but just not that situation.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes too, just being in the room, observing gossip, it doesn't make you any better. Like that's
No,
whenever you need to be like, change the subject, tell them, hey, I'm not going to be hanging around this. If they keep bringing it up, um, I honestly feel like that's just part of having integrity within our words. And what kind of person do you really want to be? Do you want to be the friend or the person that's remembered as like never being able to, the only thing that comes out of their mouth is about other people? Or do you want to actually be the person that has actually amazing things to say about other people around them and points out the positives? Yeah, sometimes we make mistakes. If you're gossiping about
right,
someone's mistakes, are you really saying that you've never made any mistakes? No. That's one thing I
right,
had to realize whenever in the past, it's like if I was to judge somebody, it doesn't make me any better. Because
mm,
here I am, first of all, being judgmental and a complete biatch. No kidding. But like here I
doesn't
am
make you feel
judging
better.
someone else's mistakes or
Right,
judging the way they're living their life. Do I really want all my friends to live the same life that I live? No. I can help guide them personally and I can help them, but no matter what, we're going to walk our own walks.
right,
I think if you and your friendship groups are doing that, you guys probably should talk about that because there's probably someone that feels left out. That if you're gossiping with other girls, you're probably going to be scared once you leave, not only that they're going to be
oh,
maybe
for
saying
sure,
something that you're going to that you
happens.
said, or they're going to be gossiping about you.
Right, you
Those
create a
friends are going to be like,
safe
"Oh, well,
community.
now that Ashlyn's gone, let me tell
Did
you
you
that
see the
they're
dress she was wearing? Oh, girl, I don't know what she was thinking.
Did you see her makeup, girl? You can tell she's definitely been crying in her car." Just
Yeah.
kidding.
It's I think when you an answer to what Ashlyn was talking about is when you do get in a group, it's like the intelligence of, I mean, my goodness, we to talk about other people and not sit there and focus in on, hey, I just traveled to this place, or my child, he just had this happen and it was so special. And
Besties.
yes, like connect, connect on you, like your passions, and asking the question of, just even asking the questions of like,
Get to
what are your
learn more about your
passions? Or
friends. Do you know your favorite friend's color? Like,
right. Get to know, we've gotten checked out in society so much about really, truly, deeply connecting that, I mean, you can turn on anything and see the gossip. I mean, we have so many reality TVs, and some people who don't even know like who the certain people are that are public figures or whatever, but they know certain other people. I don't want to name names. They'll know the names of every single person on the show
yeah.
compared to their next door neighbors.
Wow,
You
it's
know?
true. That's a good highlight right there.
Yeah. There's a highlight reel. Just kidding.
But I completely agree. It's just, I know that in my friendship groups that we hold our integrity in our words, and that's just such a great feeling leaving my friends and being like, wow, first of all, that was such a fun conversation. Oh, I love hanging out with my
Hmm.
girlies. But also just realizing, wow, I'm so happy we didn't talk about this or this person, because actually that person really is amazing and they're just going through a lot right
Maybe they
now.
need help. I mean,
Yeah.
really, truly, like, let's gather together and actually make her dinner.
Let's
Or
support
like,
her or
right,
him.
be the supportive code.
A shout out gossip too, real quick. A lot of it comes from jealousy.
Yeah, and judging ourselves. So that's the biggest thing. Like, you're nitpicking somebody else, you're criticizing somebody else, you're judging them. If you will literally step back, step back. Where are you judging yourself, and where are you being critical of yourself right now? In this, just today, even go back in thought process. If you're not even aware of it, then that's how easily gossiping is the most unconscious thing you can pretty much do. It's
Yeah.
harsh. It's, it's, come on, like, we do the best we can too. We're not saying, we're
We're
saying it's a
gossiping about
walk,
gossiping, though.
right? We know it's a walk. And I know that so much, you could have grown up in a home that was so gossipy, and
That's how you
you
bond.
almost got hits of like, oh my gosh, I'm going home and my mom's going to tell me all the tea about this. Or your mom's like, woohoo, you came home, tell me all the tea about the girls you're hanging out with. It can be programmed and wired in your brain, and you just have to break up with it, like witness it, break up with it, and replace it with, maybe you say this about somebody and you think, you know what, I actually did notice this about her. I mean, maybe you can start training your brain to be differently and not have it feel like good at all. You don't need to have people ignore you in your entire life for 3 months or 6 months to learn the lesson of it.
Yeah.
But
I feel like in
it,
girl culture, we need to start being more supportive of each
oh my
other. There's so
goodness,
many mean comments that I've noticed. I mean, this is why another reason why I've knocked off of social media. But just the mean comments that girls say to each other about their weight, the way they look, the person that
yeah,
they're with, or
we're
just every little
right.
thing, little
It's
aspects of their
amazing,
life. And it just breaks my heart because, like, first of all, social media has turned it into, well, I'm not saying it to their face, so they can't really be hurt. It's virtual, but there's a person on the other side of that reading that. That is
right?
not okay. Like, there's so many, like, we already are so
Doesn't matter,
alone, and we're trying to connect with social media, which is not really even social media because it's really just disconnect media. But like, it's like we're already so alone. And that's why, just like I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, that's why suicide rates are just through the freaking roof right now. Practically, I forgot what the thing was, but I think, like, especially a man commits suicide like every 10 minutes. Like, we should be there supporting for each other, not gossiping, hurting, talking bad about each other, bringing each other down. Like, if anything, right now in society, we need to be bringing people up and saying, hey, I'm
right?
here for you. I'm here to listen to you. What you tell me is not going to be told in the other room. There was
Right.
this thing that I heard that it's like, don't vent to a person that you know is going to bring that vent to another room. So stay in don't, this is funny, to go outside with a person that loves nature, basically mentality, like that has an open mind. Don't have someone that has a closed mind and a closed house, because the person that has that is going to be venting, in
Well,
their
when you
house.
vent, you understand that all of the entire house
Mhm.
has the ventilation system. And so you think you're just taking it to that one person or in that building, but you understand that that can go throughout
Oh,
the
yeah.
entire thing.
It can be a
Look at the bigger
skyscraper.
picture, right? Somebody can say, oh, with all my heart, like, I promise you, I didn't mean to hit my microphone. I promise you, I will never tell a soul. Raise your hand, put a comment down below.
Yeah.
How many of us all have been burnt by that? Like, it's,
Or
if
have
you would
done
not
it
say
and
it with,
did go to the
well,
other room. We've
right.
all done that too.
We've all done that. We've all been there. We're not acting like we're on some hierarchy of like, but we are doing our best and that's what counts. And we're really actually, I think, doing pretty darn
Yeah, be
awesome.
accountable about it. And you know what? If you did gossip and you're like, oh my gosh, Ashlyn and Janae are literally making me feel guilty as hell right now, go
Oh,
and actually go up to that person and be like, you know what? I would need to apologize. Own up to
right,
it. Take accountability and say, you
right.
know what? Why you were
Trying to do
out of
better.
the room on this point, or whenever you told me this secret thing, I just got to tell you that I told so and that was not okay, and that from now on I learned my lesson, and it's not going to go any further than that
I'm doing
because
my best.
we're trying our best. That's all it is.
Right.
But
That's what you just tell them. Like, listen, I had a moment
we
that obviously I decided that I wanted to be a
silly butt.
silly tushy. Like we do have interrupts, like, where we do something and then you look back on it and you think, wow. And sometimes you can look at a 4 month stint where people will say that I've talked to just even recently where they did a 4 month stint of just checking out with work, checking out with alcohol, checking out with this, the checkouts and stuff. And we can do the same thing when it's so easily. It There is a thing about breaking news. I'm the breaking news person. I was going to mention this because
Mm-hmm.
when people that I cared about, I would come up to me, like say you have also mutual friends, and I just started saying, I am not the 5 o'clock news. If she wants you to know, then, or you wanted to ask her, ask her. But I'm not, people just knew I was like going to say, I'm not the 5 o'clock news. I am not the reporter for this person. If you want to find out about this person,
Yeah.
if maybe you're not even close enough to even have that news report. So I'm not going to be the 5 o'clock news because I want to be the person that people feel like they can come to and have a safety
It's
zone.
like the gossiping hen in the morning that no, it's the
Here's the
gossiping hen.
news.
I'd rather be the valiant horse, that like integrity with my words. And, if someone starts gossiping too much, I just gallop off. No,
Right? Well, what do you want? What do I want? I want a friend that's loyal. I want a friend that has my back. That's fun. So, if I show up as that person and I'm that for myself, that's kind of what I expect in a friendship too. I'm that for myself. I want to be fun. I
yes.
want to be loyal to myself. That's something I've also like really stepped into in this last year is the trusting factor and being able to trust myself. If I say something, am I really following through with it?
And that's
So
part of the four agreements that we'll be talking about next
yeah,
is
that's going to be our next
impeccable
episode.
with your word.
Right.
So
It's very important. It's like, so we are going to, we want to hear from you about any gossiping stories. I'm just kidding.
tell us the tea. No,
Tell us the tea. No, we
we
want
won't
to
tell
hear your
anybody.
experience and what you've learned with gossiping, how it makes you feel. Anything that you would like to add below that will help others or just be heard. So you're safe here. As always,
Much
Ashlyn
love. Now
and
that's
I love.
love. And remember
Yes.
that you are in charge and in control of your very own love story. So let's start that today.
Yes. Peace out.
Bye.